Thanks for coming to our learning marketplace. Welcome to everyone here. My name is Megan Mendez, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I included them on my screen here. And I work at Westside Regional Center in Culver City, California. And my role is I help with our HCBS transition for our provider community. And I work in employment services. And I'm going to be presenting today alongside my co-trainers, Rhiannon and Stephen. So Rhiannon, do you want to take it away and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Rhiannon Maycomber. I also work at Westside Regional Center in Culver City, California with Megan and Stephen. And we are all together certified PCT trainers. We're a training team. My specific role, I'm the community education and training specialist at Westside. So happy you guys are here. Thanks for joining us.
And Stephen, before you pop over to Stephen to do the introduction, I forgot one more piece that I just wanted to share. Reminder that if anybody who's joining us needs specific language accommodations for which breakout room they might want to participate in, we will be using breakout rooms later in the conversation. So do include that in your title if you go up to the participant list and rename yourself with that. If you need captions, go ahead and include that main room. And then if there's any other language specifications, you can include that there as well. So just wanted to remind everyone of that and toss it over to Stephen.
All right, thanks, Megan. Thanks, Rhiannon. Welcome, everybody. My name is Steve Browning. I work at Westside Regional Center also. I am the aging specialist at Westside. So I only work with our folks who are getting a little bit older, who are 55 and older. I wanted to share a little bit of the background of why we're doing this learning marketplace. I've worked at Westside Regional Center for about 20 years, maybe a little bit more. Before that, I was at another agency for 10 years. So I've been in the field for quite a while. About a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, our agency made the decision that we wanted to become more person-centered. And they asked myself, Megan, and Rhiannon if we wanted to become person-centered thinking trainers. All three of us jumped on the chance because we're all passionate about person-centered thinking and we all have a similar vision. We're open to learning. We have the desire to share. Just one more thing that I always forget to tell people is that we all have a really good sense of humor. And as you guys get to know me, you're going to realize that I am super, super funny. So whenever I make a joke, laugh. It's a requirement. Okay, maybe not, but. So anyway, as we started our work in person-centered thinking, we realized that we have a lot of things in common, a lot more in common than we ever would have known. When we first got into this, I thought, oh my gosh, these two women are so much younger than me. I'm in my 50s. They're a lot younger. I didn't think we'd have anything in common, but we soon realized that there's some things that are important to us, all three of us, and that includes being culturally relevant and inclusive and using those examples in our training. This includes the visibility of our LGBTQ plus community. And we wanted to challenge the assumptions, as not all identities are always visible. Rhiannon, can you bring up our one-page profile, our group one-page profile?
Yes.
So as you guys can see, we added some how to best support us. So some things to best support us is offering this space for discussions about LGBTQ, see, I even trip over it, LGBTQ plus issues in the person-centered gathering. We want there to be an open discussion. We would love for it to see an expansion of the curriculum to include examples relevant to the community. I think you can see it. With that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Rhiannon so that she can give us a little bit of history of how our event came about. Rhiannon?
Sure. Thank you, Stephen. So as Stephen mentioned, we all kind of came to realize we have this incredible sort of thing in common that not only are we PCT trainers, but we all care so much about LGBTQ issues. So it so happened that in this year where we came together as a training team, it was also the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Inn uprising, the event that was really the catalyst to the kind of modern day LGBTQ civil rights movement. So we wanted to just acknowledge kind of the ongoing struggle because as probably all of us know, LGBTQ rights are still being threatened every single day within our country, abroad, kind of everywhere. So we wanted to create a space to just acknowledge that struggle, but also highlight the legacy of resistance, create a space for the community of people that we support with disabilities who may be LGBTQ identified. And so we decided to come together and have a Pride celebration. And we did it in person when that was still a thing, so that was cool. We were able to showcase a documentary that we found on the Stonewall Uprising, give folks some history. We allowed people to share their stories. We had a couple of even coming out stories. So it was really incredible. And we shared resources, and I'm gonna bring up a couple of pictures. We invited providers, we invited our whole community of people we support, our staff, and our providers really rose to the occasion. They donated these beautiful cupcakes that you're seeing that were arranged into a rainbow. So that was cool. And yeah, we just put up some decorations and kind of had ourselves a celebration. So here are some other pictures from that event. We had a really good turnout. So, you know, we didn't want to lose that momentum. We wanted to make sure that we continued to carry that on this year, despite needing to do it virtual, just like the gathering. So we sort of came together and thought about what would we want to do for this year's event. And we decided that we would kind of showcase the culture and the art of the LGBTQ community, specifically wanting to highlight the work of anyone with a disability who is LGBTQ identified that wanted to submit their work for our show. So we did, like I said, a virtual art gallery. And yeah, it was really great. But we wanted to be able to also kind of importantly have a diversified representation of identity. So especially with the momentum of the Black Lives Matter movement, it was especially important to us to hopefully, you know, we were just hoping we were going to get that representation through different identities within the community. And we were so fortunate that someone, a parent from our community, came forward and wanted to highlight the story of her aunt, who you'll see a little bit more about in just a few minutes. Her name is Sir Lady Java, and she was a really pivotal Black trans advocate in the movement in Los Angeles, in our community. So we were so fortunate to be able to share her story along with a wide variety of representation and identity, trans folks included, along with various art forms. So this included, we had some poetry, we had some musical performances, and some visual art. And I'm gonna send it over to Megan, who's gonna take us into our highlight reel.
Thanks, Rhiannon. That was a great introduction. So yes, we decided that we wanted to have this event virtually, and what we did was we hosted it on Zoom, and Rhiannon's going to be getting into a little bit later kind of some of the technical planning we did around Zoom to have this event. But one of the things I just wanted to share is that we did record the whole event. So if at some point later on down the road you want to watch the whole event, you're welcome to do that. We've had probably about 350 views from all over the country already on our social media presence of the event. And then in person, we had about 80 people that participated, including, you know, individuals that we serve at our regional center, but also people who receive services in other areas of the country, people who provide services, staff and family members all together participating and celebrating Pride together. So we're going to watch a 10-minute clip of the event, and then we're going to kind of talk about some of our learning around it.
Thanks everyone for joining, and
oops, sorry about that. Lost it. It was smoother during the event. See, I seem to have misplaced it. So give me 1 second. Where'd it go?
What was that somebody said earlier about if something's going to go wrong, technically it will?
Always.
Okay, I think I found it. Sorry about that, guys. I used a format I don't usually use. Let's see. Here we go. It's coming. There it is.
Thanks, Rhiannon.
And we're really excited about this Pride event, our second annual Westside Regional Center Pride event. This is the first time we've done it virtually. And we have some amazing artists to share with you this morning. So
to pursue their dreams. He is an advocate for racial and gender equality and a very selfless person. Alex is a passionate writer who dares to dream. Here's to the ones who dream. And now I'm going to bring on Veronica Mills, my co-host, who is going to read the first poem for us. Veronica?
Hi, everyone. This is Resisting Arrest by Alex Andy Fung. Uniting uniformed unity, you and I defy the sky. Teamwork and collaboration, up to personal discretion. Civil rights, civility. Minorities against majorities, stick to the status quo. But should we? Really? Defy the scars and seek new avenues. Harness the power of creativity. Emerge with sense and sensibility. Utopia was created and conceived by Thomas More, but we all must strive for more. For he was a man for all seasons. Arrest might be criminal, but people cannot be subliminal. If they want to break free, listen to the words of wisdom for me. Know thyself, be thyself harmoniously. That was Resist by Alex Andy Fung.
Sir Lady Java, this was her performing name. And Sir Lady Java was one of the first Black transgender activists within the Los Angeles area. So part of what we have in our methodology of why we're doing this is also because we want to highlight the legacy of resistance that has occurred within the LGBT community. And it's at a particularly important moment right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. And we're showing how these movements are both part of the same continuum. So let me just tell you a little bit about Sir Lady Java. So Sir Lady Java was born in 1943, and she was an American transgender rights activist, an exotic dancer, a singer, comedian, and actress. She was active on stage, television, radio, and film from the mid-1960s and 1970s.
Honor all of us. I have a transgender daughter. Say her name. I don't want her to be another one. So for the Black queer community, there's that intersectionality. It's not just one. We don't want to fear for our lives because of police brutality, but we're also worried about the community. So right now, more than ever, please protect us all, not just one, but all, because being gay, being queer, being trans adds that extra layer of worry. And it's a civil rights issue. It's not just a Black civil rights issue. It's an all civil rights issue. And we have to respect and honor that. So if now more than ever, people are home, people are quarantined, people see what's happening, see this also. I'm pleading with you all, see this also. It's important. Don't just let the momentum die now. Say their names.
And we want to be able to allow people to show their pride through their art. The first artist that we're going to introduce is Starving Darling. I'm going to read her bio. Starving Darling is a solo indie rock act by frontwoman Shane Gray Holzman. Starving Darling has played the Mint LA, Silver Lake Lounge.
I can't stop. I can't dance. 'Cause I'm so attracted to hot pink. Thanks. Also, if you want to check my songs out on Spotify, you can check Starving Darling EP on Spotify, and my Instagram is Starving Darling Music. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. I think that's my new favorite song. I love that song.
Hi. I just want to say hi to everyone. Thank you for your comments, and I'm excited to be part of the Zoom. I've never been part of a Pride before, so it's really cool. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your bravery, Shane.
As we continue on with our event, although it's not amazing kind of being quarantined and in this environment where we're not really able to do all the things we would normally want to do, what an opportunity to all come together and just share our art and see each other's faces. And, you know, we have participants who have contributed their work from all across California. We're going to see work from other parts of the country. So, you know, there's definitely some upsides to all this. And with that being said, I'm actually going to bring on our first visual artist. And Sophie, I see that you're here. I was told that you wanted to share a statement about your piece. So I'm going to pull up your piece titled Self-Portrait. And if everyone can welcome Sophie. Sophie, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, I am very nervous, but I'm excited to be here. I'm gonna read the thing that I wrote. Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm not a girly girl. I'm a tomboy. My art piece is titled My Self-Portrait. I see myself as a superhero because I'm strong. I don't let people mean words hurt me. I keep myself positive. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sophie. I would just love to invite anyone who wants to maybe share an emotion that they're feeling when they're seeing this incredible piece about Sophie the superhero. If you want to just go ahead and add to the chat box just what comes to mind for you as you're taking this wonderful piece in. And Sophie, thank you so much for your bravery. I know it's not easy to kind of get on and talk in a room of faces, but you're incredible, and we love this piece. Thank you so much. So we have Joy. Someone shared Joy, that Sophie, you are indeed a superhero, which is so true. Strength. Incredible. Someone feels empowered. Go ahead.
You.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I've never been to a Pride event like this. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. This is
Try not to look back, whether it was good, bad, hanging with my hood rats, notebooks in a book bag full of punchlines, took check, but took that as a sign, dyed my hair blue, here's something to look at. I didn't need to fit in, I fit almost anywhere, spark both lit ends and got away with murder. You should have heard of punk young buck, act to the back, word up, both so.
This series is called Automatic. It is actually dedicated to someone I know who may or may not be diagnosed with a certain disorder. But yeah, this first piece you're looking at, body language, I actually performed during my final. It was very nerve-wracking.
Thank you, Maria. It's also beautiful. In case you're not seeing in the chat, everyone agrees with that and says beautiful and meaningful images. Oh, I'm sorry, that was in regards to Dustin. Congratulations, Maria, on graduating. And then beautiful pieces. Congratulations, Maria. Your art is beautiful, Maria. Your art and titles are so beautiful and amazing. What an inspiring piece.
I think we've seen a lot of ways that people express their pride. I think we want to open it up so that we can share how we might celebrate our own pride and how we might help others to celebrate their pride if they're not able to express themselves. So I want to open it up.
Go ahead. I'm really happy to be at this event, and I hope it still goes on and meet new people.
More events to meet more gay and
I would like more
artists.
events to meet new gay and
LGBT artists.
LGBT artists.
Pride isn't just like, you know, what is it that I can do the best of to get through the day, or like, at least for me, I try to find a passion that speaks louder than my pain.
In this process, we really, really appreciate our agency being supportive of us doing this event. And so thanks again. Have a great rest of your day. We're going to have a little dance party now. Thanks, everyone.
All right. So, hope you enjoyed just the clips reel. The reason we wanted to share, a little bit longer of a clip was part of our intention with this event was to create a community feeling and to have people have the opportunity to have their art respected. And so it was really amazing to see the folks in the chat paying that appreciation towards the other artists, what they like and admire about the other artists. It was a really, really amazing community event to just allow people to celebrate their pride. And some of you I already see have already started this process, but one thing an activity that we did during the event that I'll invite you to consider doing now if you'd like, if you go to your name and would like to rename yourself with your preferred pronouns, what we did during the event was we shared a video that explained why pronouns are important to people. Many people use the pronouns she, her, hers, or he, him, his. Some people choose gender non-conforming pronouns like they, them, because they don't identify with one specific gender. And so if you would like to share, part of the reason why we did this activity and we encourage others to consider this activity is we want to normalize the process of asking people what their pronouns are. Because if it becomes more normal for those of us who may not identify as gender non-conforming or transgender, if we're supporting that process ourselves by asking other people their pronouns or sharing our pronouns, then we can make it accessible to others who may feel intimidated to share their pronouns if they're not perceived as the gender they were assigned at birth. So, so if you'd like to share your pronouns, you can choose to rename yourself in the participant list, or click on your picture and click rename and share your pronouns. I see Tammy's asking a question, and we will have time for questions. And if you want to go ahead and ask your question in the chat window, I can either just log it, pull it aside, and then we have time, we'll be able to address those. So however works best for you. We will have time for breakout conversation and then a little bit of time for questions as well. So I'm gonna throw it over to Rhiannon to continue the conversation about what we learned from the event.
Yeah, it's ironic because I'm supposed to talk about how well we manage the technical side of things and not get this slideshow to pull it. It's here, but it's frozen. Any ideas, Alan, on why I'm not able to kind of open it up more? I'm not sure.
Try clicking on it once and then see if that happened to me when I clicked on it and then I was able to advance. No?
Yeah, well, anyways.
Okay.
I'll just move on, hopefully be able to get it to work.
Rhiannon, I'll try pulling it up on mine as well, and then I can share the screen if we need to.
I think my PowerPoint might be frozen for some reason. But anyways, during the event, it did go a lot smoother. So in case you're wondering kind of how we put it together, we figured we would let you in on the technical background. So what we did initially is, like we said earlier, we asked for a call for submissions. So we put a flyer out to our community and encouraged folks to submit photographs of visual art if they wanted to submit, or if they were going to do any kind of video like you saw Starving Darlings performance. We asked that they keep the clip to about 3 to 4 minutes, allowing time for others, obviously, but we asked them to share that via a Google Drive file. So Google is free for anyone, and it seemed like the easiest route. So we were able to accept submissions that way. As far as I know, there weren't any issues in receiving submissions. So once we had our submissions, we were kind of able to go from, perfect. We were kind of able to go from there, perfect timing, Megan, and put together our agenda. So we did a lot of kind of pre-planning ahead of time. As you can see, this might be excessive for some folks, but we put the exact times that we intended to speak about things, along with kind of color coding them based on who was going to speak. And additionally, in Black, the italicized font, you'll see the technical instructions. So that really helped us in the background, facilitating the event, as well as just kind of having everything open. When I tried to play the video earlier, you guys saw that I X'd out of something and got kind of lost, but luckily I had backup. I had it open on my browser, so I was able to get into it that way. So kind of just preparing for issues like that since we were on a tight time schedule. And we invited people to, just like the event here at the gathering, to share their camera, to turn their video on if they were comfortable. Pride celebrations are often, you know, an important part is being able to see each other and get together and have that sense of community. So we really felt like that kind of helped the flow of event as well. And yeah, so I know the chat's kind of going off. I'm not sure if there's specific questions that we want to address now. Tammy was sharing that she recently attended a training and learned a lot regarding people who identify as non-binary. On one hand, the panel echoed what you just said. However, later in the training, one panelist said being asked was somewhat traumatizing at the same time due to feeling it was the equivalent of having to come out every time they are asked. How can we best be the ally in this situation? That's a good question. Megan.
I think it's a great question. And I think everyone's individual experience is probably going to be different. And I think there's probably a difference in how that question's facilitated, right? So Rhiannon's actually going to share a few things that we've done in our training setting in terms of normalizing the pronoun question and making it that everybody shares their pronouns. So perhaps that might alleviate some of the concern about being asked directly by a person if you just set up the setting. If you could set the setting where everybody shares from the start, maybe that would be a way to alleviate, or making it, you know, voluntary if people want to share their pronouns. But that's a really great question.
Yeah, agreed. So on that note, I think what we were going to get into next, yeah, if you want to leave this up, Megan, that's perfect. We were just going to share some of the actions that we've been taking as a training team, as an organization, and in light of what we were just talking about, when we have our in addition to kind of changing and adding our pronouns on Zoom, normalizing it that way. Prior to Zoom land, we would have trainings in person like everyone else, and we would use these name tags that you see featured on the screen. And so from the start of our training, people would walk in, they'd get their PCT workbook, and they would get a name tag that they would fill out and hopefully indicate what their pronouns are. So just without even a conversation around it, that's just part of what we do. So, and of course we get into it during the training, but we're trying to normalize it in that way. Someone also said, Tammy said the email signature. So yeah, we've been doing that ourselves, and we've noticed quite a few people in our agency have started to use the email signature as well. So making it so that it's just a typical part of the conversation has, I think, been helpful. And when we think about the way that we have been sort of facilitating the PCT curriculum as trainers, you know, we're really mindful to weave in the LGBTQ experience and examples throughout the existing curriculum. So for example, the power of language section, kind of to what Megan was just sharing, to the point Megan made, when we're asking folks about who they want to date, rather than asking someone like myself, are you interested in a boyfriend? You could reframe that and instead say, are you interested in dating at this time? Are you interested in a romantic relationship? So really just taking and making it gender neutral, or removing the assumptions from the conversation. So that kind of we've noticed can be helpful, but also we're careful to, when we're talking about the relationship map, we make sure to include a conversation around the concept of a chosen family. Often within the LGBTQ experience, there are issues of families not always being accepting of the individual. So the chosen family, that concept of who you surround yourself, who you choose to spend your time with and share closeness with, is especially important when it comes to the LGBTQ identity, and making sure to have that conversation with folks, to bring those conversations into, you know, even those relationships into planning conversations. So we kind of do that throughout. And additionally, another thing that we've done quite recently, we shared a story example that we'd like to see incorporated in the curriculum as part of the effort that everyone's been talking about here at the gathering. With the materials committee, we submitted a story centered on a trans individual's experience, someone who received services. And hopefully, you'll see that story being incorporated as an example or something similar that really speaks to the intersectionality of different identities, so that we have more stories to pull from to speak to, especially in this case, the LGBTQ experience. So, and with that being said, I think I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Stephen for our discussion.
So just to kind of round things out and to bring things home, in a few minutes, we're going to take about 12 minutes to discuss. We've got 2 questions here that we want to talk about. So when you're in your breakout room, if you can just refer back to these, what changes can you make in your own personal and work life to be more inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community? And the second question is, knowing this information, we invite you to discuss what level 2 changes could be recommended to the learning community to be more inclusive of LGBTQ plus identities. In your groups, we're going to ask that you have one person take electronic notes, because we're going to ask you to paste your notes into the chat box so we can capture the learning and identity themes and identify themes. When you return from the breakout groups, we're going to ask that you share one answer each per question from your breakout room, just in the interest of time. Does anybody have any questions? Was that clear? So I think we're going to break out into a couple of different rooms. Alan?
So maybe just one more time with the instructions.
Okay.
Stephen, if you want to share, and then I'll read the questions one more time out loud.
Okay. So I'll try to read them slower. If I'm going too fast, just somebody raise your hand. In your groups, have one person take notes electronically, because we're going to ask you to paste your notes into the chat box so that we can capture the learning and identify some themes. When you return from your breakout groups, we're going to ask that you share one answer to each question per breakout group. Okay?
And the 2 questions are, what changes can you make in your own personal and work life to be more inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community? And then, knowing this information, we invite you to discuss what level 2 changes could be recommended to the learning community to be more inclusive. And so you all have about 12 minutes for this conversation.
I think, Alan, we gave Alan the questions. Hopefully he'll be able to, I don't see him actually, but he was saying he could be able to broadcast them in case you guys missed it, or we can pull them up again. Does everyone feel like they have the questions though? Hopefully.
Great.
Cool.
All right.
We'll see you in 12.
Here we go. We're back from breakouts.
Well, how was that? How was the discussion? Thumbs up, everybody. I think we had 2 breakout rooms, I believe. So we have a little bit of extra time. We were going to ask you just to comment on one question or just give one answer, but I think we have time to maybe have a discussion between the 2 groups. Group 1, do you guys want to share?
So maybe Bob's group start, and then we can hear from what the summary was from your group.
Sure, but someone other than Bob can talk. I've been talking too much this gathering.
You go, Bob.
Well, go ahead, Demi.
Changes we can make. We discussed adding pronouns as a personal consideration to show support as allies. Identify as LGBTQ. We also talked about, help me out.
I think the pronouns was the biggest thing we talked about.
I think so too.
And recognizing why to do that.
Yes.
I think that's huge. I think that's something huge. What I have been finding is that folks who identify with the LGBTQ plus community, what they've been doing is they're adding it to their one-page profile, so that you only have to talk about it once, and then everybody knows and everybody understands. And in our trainings, we talk about that. That's one of the things that folks can do, and we can encourage if people want that.
How about the other group?
I think that's us. This is Allison. I am realizing we didn't even talk about the second question. But that'll be a good thing to reflect on. And we'll keep thinking about it. So we talked about personal and work changes, and in personal relationships. I think several of us talked about having a lot of LGBTQ people in our personal life. So growing up with being an advocate in that way, and being an ally, and some of the changes could possibly be challenging people when they're being a-holes. So an important part, I think. On the work side, just advocating for more ways to be more inclusive, and educating, creating space for more conversations, and talking even when it's uncomfortable. Training on LGBTQ issues. One person mentioned having an organization that asks you to go through a training and then sign a statement that says you won't discriminate against people, including LGBT people. And then we probably missed the second question because I was blabbering on about, but this could probably inform the second question. In our state DD agency recently, there have been more than one, but the most, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who works there and receives the incidents of the day and then assigns them to investigators. And she had an incident come in that was about two women who were making out and kissing, and it was labeled as abuse. And it was, she read me the whole, it's hard to imagine that the situation that was described was not consensual. And it was between two people who received services and seemed to really like each other. So I don't know, it's confusing why it was, came through as abuse. And we talked about, and Bernard shared, you know, when things like that happen, an investigator comes out to your house to talk to you about what you did, and, you know, then the whole shame spiral starts. And so I think that is, there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done around, you know, LGBT issues and sexuality in general. So we discussed that a little bit.
You know, it's that I was going to say this, is the individual's right to vote, all of that, and what it's in that bylaw is for us to understand our rights anyway, about that anyway. And the way we got a rule of it, and then we got the list of the stuff we found doing the right things on there, and it's on there for the we do that. In the court with a person, it's our right to do that. Anyway, and later on, it's something like we do something wrong, and a person went back and told the person on us, and we did something wrong. It's wrong for us to get ourselves in trouble, and not supposed to get ourselves. And later on, a person comes to us, get to DDS, the DDS got to debate that, and later on, the older days to get the message. No, got and the person told it, and told the DDS they got to write the incident report, all of this, and the part is for us to understand that, and why people don't know nothing about the person who is doing that thing together. You know why? If that's the person is, it's like me, I got myself in trouble one time. I did something wrong, and later on we had a meeting, and all of this and that, and DDS was there at the meeting, and later on they jumped on the staff and said, you didn't wrote the incident report about what he did on to that client anyway. And the only thing is, I try to tell them it's not my right. you can't justify my right to vote. It's on that paper. We got right there. We got to do everything on that paper for us to understand we born doing right. If some things not on there, we born can't do it, and all of that. And that's the right thing for us to understand that.
And I think there's another element that is important to be sensitive about, that the way that this incident got reported is there was a direct support professional who observed it, thought it was wrong, and then reported it, and it, you know, the whole thing. And I think that we have to acknowledge also that LGBT issues are seen very different across different cultural groups. And for some people, they may have never seen two girls kissing and didn't know that like legitimately thought there was something wrong. And so I think, which, you know, it breaks my heart and probably breaks a lot of people's heart, but like that's a real thing. And I think that any kind of discussion about LGBT issues has to, I don't know what the solution is, but like, I feel like there's a piece there that is important to acknowledge. You can't just tell people, well, LGBT people have rights and you just have to deal with it. Like I think it has to be more than that.
Well, and
it's got to be a conversation.
Go ahead, Amanda. Was that you?
Yeah, no. I was just saying it's got to be a conversation that's not on the agenda, but something that we talk about regularly. And I kind of think when Bernard talking, you know, that we need to talk about sexuality more broadly, and people need to be aware of their own values and how that comes into the conversation, and how sometimes they need to put their values aside and say, you know, maybe they're uncomfortable with sexuality in general. And so having that conversation with other people can feel awkward. And I guess, you know, supporting people to confront and be vulnerable around some of that so we can make it just, you know, normal.
And I think that's one of the reasons we brought this up, because it is a hot issue. In some parts of the world, you could be killed still for being in the LGBTQ plus community. My growing up, I grew up in the Midwest. Everybody still trips over the letters LGBTQ plus in the small town that I grew up in. So that's why it's so important for me to bring this up and to push this so that it's at the forefront, and so that we can, you know, have this part of our learning.
I think we have like maybe two more minutes just for any questions, any thoughts that came out of our discussion today that we could bring forward, or if there's anything about our event that you had questions about, or the Zoom way that we use Zoom for the event, any of those types of questions, you could go ahead and enter them in the chat if there are any.
Well, I think from our community's perspective, the learning community, I think just taking leaps by formalizing the culture conversation is going to open the door for a lot more self-disclosure, acceptance, weaving it into the curriculum. I think will be really helpful. But again, that's going to be challenging based upon where people are doing trainings. If you're in the Bible Belt, if you're in red states, could be very challenging about how you approach that.
Absolutely.
But as a community, it is our values that we be held accountable. And so people that are a part of the learning community that are identifying LGBTQ need to call us out. Just call us out. Hold us accountable.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's can be confronting for some people, but I think if we're talking about values of an inclusive environment, we can't say, well, we have to put that conversation off the side when we're here or when we're there, because maybe that's where there's some people in the room that need to hear that the most.
Yeah, I have to tell you, because I travel and do training, I make those comments because I'm going to be leaving. So open the door, get things going, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, and I think to Bernard's point, I was going to say to Bernard's point, you know, for many years, especially the people with disabilities that we support have been seen as asexual beings, right? And so we've denied that part of life and experience for people, and then we just take that, you know, to the next level. If someone identifies as transgender or identifies as bisexual, a lot of times bisexual people are also completely erased from the conversation as well, because there's comments that are made, you know, like, how can you choose both? You know, if you're bisexual, you must be denying that you're actually gay. And so some of those internalized conversations still impact the way that people experience the world. So I just appreciate that, you know, Bernard brought it into that realm of like understanding that this is about a broader conversation about people's lives and their experiences.
Right. I understand what y'all understand this anyway. Why the part is people got to understand it's the individual's rights anyway. Why individuals came first, and we didn't know nothing about our parents or none of that. That's the one that's come up first. And what we got to understand them. Why it's the same thing with me or who else. We don't understand them first, and that's the main part of the reason why. It is we born live together with a person, we born living with them, and they're born working with us and try to tell us the right thing to do. We born listen to y'all. You telling us that Bernard do this. We born doing Bernard, on your rights. Do you understand your rights? You say yes, you know understand your rights. You got to follow the rights. Only thing is the individuals who want to go out there and do this and that, and somebody says, you can't do this? No, you're messing that up.
Right.
So, you're right. It's the same thing about somebody at the big office said an individual in all organizations can't have sex. That's wrong. The individual born learning about sex. They got to learn about sex. You know why? I learned this way back a long time when I was out for Haven. And one of the things is I took it and brought it from there to the street, and later on I learned it from one office to another organization. We had sex education class, school, what else? How we learned this, we learned from school. The school didn't have it first, but we learned it. The only thing is the school started brought it up to us and learn how about sex. And that's how all this thing is. It's put it together now. Everybody learning this and that now. And all this, they're talking about two women can't kiss and can't have sex together. That's their right. That's their right, for real.
Right.
Exactly.
They don't care what the institution up. It's their right to do that. That's
an important point, Bernard. I think the piece that you're sharing is where I want us to land. I think that's a really good place for us to start the closing of the session, because that's really what's at the center of this conversation.
Right.
One thing I wanted to draw your attention to, because I noticed we're starting to go a little bit over on time. In the session notes, if you go back to the session documents, we did share LGBTQ plus resource guide that we developed, and some of the resources we developed in the guide are national or international organizations, but it's something you could take back and consider adapting. Some of them are local to Los Angeles, and it's something you can consider adapting to the work in your area. If there's organizations that support people with disabilities or people who identify as part of the LGBTQ community, you could think about having that on hand and available to distribute to people you support. That was something that we did at our organization. So I wanted to draw your attention to that. And thanks everyone again for joining us. In the spirit of the Pride event that we held, we closed with a dance party, and we would like to invite you to join us. If you want to turn your camera on, you're welcome to join us. We're going to have just a few minutes of celebration, because Pride is oftentimes a very big celebration as well. So we want to have that spirit as the closing. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Anna's going to play a song, and then we're gonna have our little dance party.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having the conversation.
Sure.
Thank you all.
Doesn't matter if you love him or capital HIM.